Quick disclaimer before we start on these predictions for the AL and NL West. I understand games have been played, all that type of stuff, so I haven't really looked at the standings very much. I've tried to veer away from them, mainly in the NL and AL West, because I haven't done them yet. But I have checked on injuries, that sort of thing, so I will make some remarks towards them in that regard. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the AL West. So the AL West looks to be like an interesting division this year. Lots of facelifting going on, new guys coming in, new impact players. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it. So in 5th place, I have the Seattle Mariners. I have them going 23-37. Their manager is Scott Servais. And this team has basically been turned into a skeleton crew the past couple years. Their lineup, a couple guys to note here, nothing crazy though. You have Dan Vogelbach, their DH. Kyle Seager, the lesser of the Seagers. Sorry, Kyle. J.P. Crawford, young shortstop who should do decently well. Austin Nola, D. Gordon is here. You have Kyle Lewis, Shed Long, Dylan Morris here. However, they did lose Omar Narvaez to the Brewers in the offseason. Those Domingo Santana to the Indians. Those are some big bats. The rotation, once again, nothing really special. Nobody really pops out on this team, if you will. Nobody really pops out of the paper. A couple guys to look out for, though. Marco Gonzalez will probably be their number 1. Taijuan Walker also will get some looks. He'll probably be the number 2. You have Yusei Kikuchi, Justice Sheffield, and then a bunch of players. Justin Dunn, Nick Margavicius, Kendall Graveman. Just a lot of random guys for the 4 and 5 spot in this rotation. They did lose Felix Hernandez. Sucks that he's gone from this team. And then their bullpen, they're just kind of gutted with injuries. They don't really have anyone of note in relief. Their closer will be Matt Magel. They have Yoshihisa Hirano, who comes over. You have Austin Adams, Dan Altavilla. They didn't really lose anybody in this regard, but just a bunch of injuries, basically. And this team is basically trying to look for any spark this year. Don't be shocked to be bored by them if you are a Mariners fan. Don't be shocked. You find yourself tuning through your channels trying to find something else to watch, because while these players aren't necessarily terrible by any means, they just don't have the stuff to be competitive this year. They can't put it quite together yet. Skeleton crew of a team, and I have them once again going 23-37, 5th place in the NL West. AL West, pardon me. So, next up, we have the Texas Rangers. I have the Texas Rangers in 4th place going 29-31. Their manager is Chris Woodward. So the story with this team, they're basically the opposite of another team we'll talk about here in a little bit, the Angels. So the Angels have this crazy offense, and then they need pitching. Their pitching is kind of a question mark. It's kind of the opposite here. They have some great pitching, but they still need some questions answered in terms of their offense. So further to lineup, you've got a couple interesting names here. You got Joey Gallo, who kind of broke out of his mold as a home run strikeout guy, really lowered his strikeouts a lot. Good for him. You also have Elvis Andrus, who's been around for a long time. Todd Frazier comes over. Danny Santana, Willie Calhoun, Rodney Odor, Shin-Soo Choo, longtime DH for them. They did lose Hunter Pence, who put in a good year for them last year. And then their rotation, when I was initially doing this, I was like, oh, who do the Texans have? But then I looked, and I was like, wow, they actually have like a really good team here in terms of their pitching. You have Lance Lynn, Mike Minor. Corey Kluber came over in the offseason, but he does have a shoulder tear, so he will be out for at least 4 weeks. I saw the report was. Jordan Lyles they bring in from the Brewers. He should put in some solid innings. And Kyle Gibson to round out the rotation. So they have the rotation basically set, except now with Kluber. That's really a question mark as to who's going to take his spot for the time being. They didn't really lose anybody either in terms of starting pitching, which is good. But in the bullpen, they do have some question marks here. You got guys such as Nick Goody, Jonathan Hernandez, a young buck who will get some looks. Their closer, Jose Leclerc. He's 26. He's looking to be their full-time guy, although he does also have a shoulder tear. Kind of the irony there, right? Losing Corey Kluber and Jose Leclerc to shoulder tears. His isn't quite as bad, so he'll be back. You have Rafael Montero, who will probably take a spot until then, either him or Jesse Chavez. Once again, didn't really lose anybody. So this is a team who's really got some electric starting pitching. Great 5 people in the rotation. Kluber, they'll be looking to replace him for a while. But otherwise, they don't really have much to carry them the last 3 innings of a game. So your pitching will get you 6 innings usually, 5 innings if they're good. But then it's those 6 innings after that where we start to question how good the Rangers really are. So that's why I have the Rangers in 4th place, going 29-31. 3rd place, as mentioned previously, I have the Los Angeles Angels going 33-27. Their manager is Joe Madden from the Chicago Cubs, newly found-in manager. This lineup is great. They have really good offense. But pitching is where things get shaky, and this really holds them back. Not quite to the extent of the Rockies have, because they do have a better lineup. Do they have a better lineup? I think they have a better lineup than the Rockies do. Yeah, they do, because they have the best player in baseball, and Mike Trout. He's been the best player in baseball for a long time now. You've got Anthony Rendon from the Nationals who comes in. He'll put in solid work for him. Shohei Ohtani, young gun DH. Tommy La Stella put in a good year for them last year. He'll be looking to capitalize on that. David Fletcher, Andrelton Simmons, great on defense. Justin Upton, Jason Castro, although they did lose Cole Calhoun. In this rotation, there's really no standout ace, no standout star to sort of propel them into the deep playoff territory you need to go. So you have Andrew Heaney, who will get a lot of looks. Julio Teheran, they signed him this offseason. He was, I feel like, sort of their settling place. They couldn't get Strasburg, so they decided, I guess we'll just settle on Julio Teheran. And then they have Dylan Bundy, who's their 3rd guy. Bunch of other guys they have who sort of round out this mess of a rotation. You've got Griffin Canning, Matt Andriese, Patrick Sandoval, and Shohei Ohtani was supposed to be in the rotation, but we just learned he's got a forearm strain. Pretty bad. I think it's grade 1 or grade 2, which is really bad. So he's out pitching for this year, which really sucks because he had Tommy John last year and now this. Terrible luck for him on his part. Really feel bad for the guy. At least he can still hit, though, which is a good thing. They did lose Tyler Skaggs. Rest in peace to him. That still sucks. And then their bullpen will be just about average. So you've got Felix Pena, Noe Ramirez, some guys who will get you some relief looks. And then in their closer will be Hansel Robles, some setup guys, Ty Buttrey, Kenyon Middleton. They're looking to capitalize on the opportunity. They're young guys looking to really break out, could potentially be closers in the future. And they didn't lose anybody in the bullpen either. So they are a great offensive squad. Don't get me wrong. They're the best player in baseball. They bring in Anthony Rendon. That's all good. But they didn't get the most important part. They didn't get a Garrett Cole. They didn't get a Steven Strasburg, a Zach Wheeler. They had to kind of, for their standards, settle for Julio Teheran. And I think that will really hurt them at points in this upcoming season. So that is why I have them in 3rd place in the AL West. 2nd place team now. This is where things get interesting. I got a little bold here, if you will. So I know there's going to be a bunch of people, if they watch this, that is. There's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be angry at me, typing on their keyboards, commenting, how could you do this? This is clearly not the right order for these teams. Hear me out. 2nd place, I have the Houston Astros going 35-25. Their manager is Dusty Baker, replacing AJ Hinks for reasons. That was a trash can noise. Sorry, it was really bad trash can noise. And here's my reasoning for why they're in second place. So they're going to have to deal with getting thrown at basically every game, right? We saw them get plunked in the preseason, I guess you'll call it. I don't know. Whatever you call the pre-play period for this COVID times. They got plunked then. They got plunked at the beginning of the year. They're still getting plunked. Plunk all the time. That, and they have the mental pressure from themselves. They have to overcome, they have to ask themselves, can we win without cheating? Can we do something without having this advantage of the trash cans being banged? And they also just so happen to lose two great pitchers. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So their lineup is still stacked. You still have Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Carlos Correa, George Springer, Yordan Alvarez. Could go all day about the Astros lineup. Still really solid offensively. I mean, I guess we'll actually see how solid they are offensively without some trash cans. And then they lost Robinson Chirinos, but who really cares? Their rotation is still solid. Still a great rotation at the top three. But they did lose a bit of that punch. That being Garrett Cole, one of the best pitchers in the league, and Wade Miley, who was a really solid 3-4 guy for them. He could be a number 2, I think. If he really was pushed to his limits, he could be a number 2 guy. He was at the Brewers one year. My Brewers. Sorry, I make a lot of Brewers references. That's how I am. So their guys, Justin Verlander, Cy Young winner last year. I do think Garrett Cole should have won it over him. That's beside the point, though. He's still doing really well at 37 years young for the guy. You have Zach Greinke, 1 year behind him. At age 36, came in last year from a trade. You have Lance McCullers, who's their number 3 guy. He's only 25. He looks to be their ace someday. You have Framber Valdez, who will get some looks at the number 4 spot. Josh James could potentially get some starting spots, although he was a reliever last year. He'll probably flip-flop between there. And then their bullpen. Their piece of garbage reliever, who is Roberto Ozuna. He's not a piece of garbage because he's bad at baseball, but because of stuff he's done with off-the-field incidents. He is out for the year, which makes things a little more interesting now. So you've got Josh James, as previously mentioned, who might be there for relief appearances if he gets booted out of the starting spot. Roberto Ozuna might have Tommy John. He might be out. Sort of good riddance because he is a piece of garbage human being. Otherwise, Ryan Presley will probably take over the closer spot. Either him. You also have young guys such as Brian Abreu, Blake Taylor, who will be making his first appearances this year. And Brandon Bailey are also back here. They do lose Will Harris and Hector Rendon. So this will be a good squad, right? They do still have this amazing hitting. I put that in air quotes because we don't know if they're actually amazing or not because of trash cans. But they will have some adjusting to do. From getting balls thrown at them, 95-mile-an-hour fastballs at their heads, and from losing a little bit of starting pitching that just so happens to be some of the best starting pitching in the league in Garrett Cole. So that's why I have them in second place. I think this will be a really humbling year for them, really show them that they have to step up. So I have them, the Houston Astros, going 35-25. And finally, that leaves us one team left. First place, I have the Oakland Athletics, the Oakland A's, going 36-24. One game ahead of the Houston Astros. Their manager is Bob Melvin. And I think that they just have a really good team, and they have sort of the perfect opportunity to sort of leap on the Astros comeuppance, if you will. Their lineup, good squad. They have great power all around. You've got Matt Chapman, who will put in some serious work with the power bat there. Marcus Semien got some outside MVP looks last year. Ramon Laureano. You have the home run king, Chris Davis, who always mashed like 40 home runs. Maybe not this year. Maybe this year he hits a lot of home runs. You have Matt Olson as well. You have Mark Cannon, who will mash, Sean Murphy, Stephen Piscotty. Always good to see his name in the discussion. And they didn't really lose anybody either. And then their rotation, they will be great as always. You've got Sean Manaea. You've got Mike Fiers as well. Those two will be your solid top two guys. You have Frankie Montas, who will fill out the number 3 spot. Really good. Jesus Luzardo comes in. He's a young guy. He'll get some looks. Chris Bassett will probably get a lot of time on the bump. You have Daniel Mengden, who will get some looks. And then A.J. Puck was supposed to also be in the starting rotation. He's moved to relief now. Some losses. You did lose Tanner Rourke, Homer Bailey, Brett Anderson, some older guys, but I think that they'll recover fine with this young pitching. And then for their bullpen, Liam Hendriks is really the guy who's going to hold it down here. But you do have some really good pieces around. So you have previously mentioned A.J. Puck. He got hurt, so when he does come back, he will probably be a reliever. You got Jake Diekman, J.B. Wendelken, T.J. McFarland in relief as well. And then as previously mentioned, you have Liam Hendriks, one of the best closers in the game. You have Yusmeiro Petit as well back there. And Joakim Soria to round out the setup. And they did lose Blake Treinen to the Dodgers, but he was getting towards his twilight years anyway. So, can you argue that this team is not as talented as the Astros? Yes. In fact, I would argue that the Astros are more talented than the Oakland A's. But I think that the Astros have their own issues to deal with, some trash can-sized issues to deal with this year. Sorry, I had to make the jab again. So I think that with that reason, the Oakland A's didn't really lose much in the offseason. They have all the world ahead of them, and they have nothing to lose. So I think that will propel them by one game ahead of the Astros, going 36-24, finally winning the AL West division. So to recap, I have the Seattle Mariners going 23-37, the Texas Rangers going 29-31, Angels 33-27, the Astros going 35-25, and the Oakland A's going 36-24, rounding out the AL West.